Hello everyone, welcome back again. My name is Jesse, and in this wonderful tutorial we're trying to see how to build a simple machine learning web application from scratch, right? So we're trying to see how to build this particular app that is used to predict the nationality or ethnicity of a particular person when you supply the name as well as the gender. So we're building the entire stuff from scratch. So we're trying to see how to embed our models we have been using inside a web application. So let's see how this app works, and let's see how to build it from scratch. So now let's see how the app works. So I'm just going to enter Kofi, right, which is an African name. So we'll try to see whether to be able to predict the nationality of this particular name, right? Perfect. So Kofi is an African name. Very interesting. Now let's try and predict something different. We'll be trying to predict a Chinese name, which is Lee. So I'll refresh it. Then we'll predict Lee, right? So Lee, everybody knows that Lee is a Chinese name. Very simple name, 2 letters. Let's see what I do to predict. Perfect. So Lee is a Chinese name. Very interesting. So that's what we're trying to build. Now you can also come to the gender section and predict the particular gender. So let's use a simple gender like Martha. Let's try and see. Everybody knows that Martha is a female name. So let's predict. Perfect. So Martha is female. Perfect. So our app is working very well. You can also come to the API session. So when you come to the API session, to just give you how to use it in the API format. So you can just go back to the API / the particular stuff. So let's say nationality. Just like it is down here, right, / the name. So let's give it as a name that we all know that may be French. So Jean, right? Jean or Jean. So if you see that Jean is a French name. Very interesting. That is the API format. So I don't know whether you can see it. Yeah, right. That is the API format. And then we can also change the same thing. Let's see whether Jean is going to give us as gender. Whether Jean is going to be male or female. Perfect. Jean is a female name. So that is the basic idea about the app we'll be trying to build, right? It's a very simple app we'll be trying to build. Very simple. So we'll be seeing how to build all of these things in this tutorial. So now let's start. So I'm just going to open a simple place. So there's going to be a folder with nothing there, right? So this is a simple folder that you'll be starting with, and it has all our models that we are going to use. So these models are the models from the previous tutorial, right? And then as well as the vectorizers to make our work more easier. So that is the basic ideas. So just create a first folder here, which is going to be our templates folder, where all our HTML stuff will be, right? Templates. Then that is all, right? That's the basic stuff. Then let's start. So I'm just going to open that file, and then let's position our stuff well. So this is going to be our app, and the app is also responsive, as you can see from here. You can even search from these places. Okay, perfect. So let's try and see how to build this app. So I'm just going to open it, and then we stop our running server. Right, so as it stops, let's work on it. So I'm just going to create the first file. The name of the file is going to be app.py. The name of the file is going to be app.py, right? That is going to be the back end, right? And then you have to create for the front end. So it's going to be inside our templates. Then it's going to be our index.html, and then create another one for our gender.html, and then the next one is going to be for our API, right? So let's call it as API docs.html. Perfect. So we have our index, gender, and an API. Perfect. So these are going to be the front end, and this is going to be the back end. Perfect. So now let's cd into our start ML. So go back and then cd into our start ML, right? So if you check here, so we have our app, the one we saved, our models, and our templates. So in case you don't have Flask, you can just install just pip install Flux, right? That is the basic stuff that you'll be using to work. Then you also need sklearn and all of those stuff to do the machine learning stuff. That is the basic idea. Now let's see how to work with it. So first of all, just going to go with from Flux, import Flux. That is the main thing. So apologies for the noise of the keyboard. Then we also need to import render template, then URL4 render template, right? And then URL4, and then we also need to go with request, then finally JSONify. So JSONify will be used to enable us to do our API stuff, right? Perfect. So that's the basic idea. Now we have imported that. So the next thing is that we need to be able to initialize our app. So it's going to be our going to have our ML packages here. That is the basic stuff. And then we also need to initialize our app. So init our app, going to be app, let's go to our Flux underscore name. Perfect, right? That's the basic idea. Then the next thing we need is to start running it. So if main, then app dot run debug is equal to true. So when you finish developing our app, you just take off this one, right? And you put our port here. That is the basic idea. So everything is going to be in between this, right? Everything will be running will be between this, right? So perfect. So now let's see how to build our first route. So the first route is going to be our index route. So it's going to be app.route. So Flux uses decorators to enable us to create our route. So we'll be using our first route, then just going to go with the particular route. Then def function index. This is going to be for our index function. So I'm going to go with return render template, right? So the render template is going to go into our templates here and then pick a particular HTML file. That's the purpose of the render template. So it's going to be index.html, right? Perfect. That's the basic idea. Now let's create something simple. HTML. Then let's call it as our name, nationality predictor, then going to do something simple, div, then h2, so nationality predictor, right? Something very simple. So that is all. So now let's see how to run it. So we have done something very basic. So to run it, just going to go with Python, then you know the app.py. So that is running perfectly on this particular URL. So just going to copy this URL that you have. You can also even run it on your phone. Copy it, and then I'll go to my here. Perfect. So this is off. So now we have it here, nationality predictor, which is the name written here. Very interesting. So that is how to work with Flux. Very simple, right? How to render whatever thing is on your front end using your back end. So that's the basic idea for that. So let's create another route for our 3 pages, right? So we have one for our gender and another one for our API, right? So perfect. So for here, I'm going to put my gender here. Then let's change this one. So this and this is going to be our gender, right? And then this is going to be for our API. So the route is going to be API. Perfect, right? And this was API docs. Perfect. So we have our 3 different routes for our gender, our index, our gender, and then our API itself. So we can just put something there, right? Just as we did here. So this is going to be for our gender predictor. Gender predictor, and then this is going to be for our API, right? So docs, right? Perfect. So perfect. So now we can just go back to it is running perfectly. Just seeing the changes, right? Running. Now in case I want to run it, I can just go back to this place and I'll just put /API. That's API predictor. Perfect, right? I can also do the same thing for the gender. So /gender. Perfect. Everything is working well. So now we have our front end working as we are supposed to work. So that is the basic stuff. Now let's pick one and start from scratch, right? So the basic idea is that we have created our nationality predictor. We need to be able to receive input from our front end. So I'm just going to create a div. Then you use a simple form, right, to help us. So the form is going to go with an input, then test. Perfect. So the next one is going to be our name query, right? You're going to call that name query. That is very, very important. So this name query is what is going to be attached to our form. Whatever we're going to be typing, it will be attached to this particular name to be given this particular identification. Perfect. That's all that we need. Perfect. Now let's create a button. So the button is going to be a submit button, or let's call it as predict. and then you give it a type of submit. Right? Perfect. So that's something very basic. So let's create another one to clear off whatever we are typing there. I'm just going to put it in front of it, and let's call this one as reset. So the reset is going to clear whatever thing we typed there. Perfect. So let's save it and let's run it and see the changes. So this is our API. Perfect. This is the front end. So as it's seeing the changes, so it's restarting. So if I come back and I refresh it, perfect. See that now it's there. So we have our clear. So if I type in something like John, right, I can just clear it. Right, perfect. That is the basic idea about it. But if I type in John or any name and I go with predict, it's not going to work, right? It is sending it, but we couldn't see the result. So how do we see whatever thing or receive what we are typing here, right? So to do that, you're just going to add it on the form. So we're going to go with a method of post, right? Because it's a web application, it's better to use post, not get. And then for security, right? And then the next thing is we need to give an action. So the action is going to be the particular route you want it to go. So you are sending that action to a predict, right? Perfect. So that is something very basic. You can use URL for in case you want. So this post, so whatever you're going to be typing here, right, will be bound to this particular name, send via post to our predict route, right? So you have to create this particular route. So let's go to here. Now we have our 3 routes, so we're going to create another route called predict. So let's call it as ML route. So perfect. So this is going to be our predict route. Right, predict route, very interesting. And now I'm going to bring the same thing here, predict, very interesting. So this predict is going to take another method, right? The kind of method it's using, it's going to be method. It's going to get and post. You can use only post, but can also use get and post. And then the next thing we need is that we need to have a means of receiving that particular stuff that you are getting, right? So how do we do that? So it's going to be our if, our request. Remember that we had a request dot method is equal to post. Then I want you to do something. I want you to receive whatever thing that is coming there. So let's call that name query is equal to our request dot form, because it's a form, because this thing is a form here, right? There's a form, and then we are receiving this particular name here. So we're passing this name inside our form. Perfect. That's the basic idea about it, right? So we have been able to receive that stuff. Now let's put it inside another variable called data. I'm going to put it inside an array, right, to make it very simple, so that you'll be able to read it straight away. Perfect. So that is the basic idea about it. So I can just send this one back here. So let's call it as our name is equal to our data. We can use name query dot upper, or it can be lower, right? Perfect. So how do we send this one back? So in case we want to send this particular one back, we'll be using this particular name here, right? So I can just come to here, and then let's create another div. Let's call this one as h2. Let's call it as original name, right? And there's a name that we have not predicted yet. Then we're just going to bring our p here. So this is how to put our result. We're going to put inside 2 double bracket, which is double curly bracket, which is called ginger, right? Then it's going to give it as our name. So if I save it now, and then let's refresh it. So now I said that the original name has come. So in case I type in a name like Bill, I think I click on predict, so that Bill has come here. Very simple. So the basic idea is that you're just going to build a form with a predict, which is going to be the route, then attach it to a name, then going to be sent through post to our backend here, and we use this particular option to receive it. Very interesting. And then now we're going to bring it back here with our ginger, and then with this particular option. That is the basic idea about it. Now let's see how to do the machine learning aspect. So there are several ways of it. So first of all, let's make it quite easy. It's going to be our ML aspect. So there are several ways of doing it, but the simplest way is that as we have already saved our models folder, we have our vectorizers, we have our models, which we have pickled, right? You have saved them in a pickle format. So we'll be using those things here. So let's load them. So I'm just going to go to the top. I'm just going to go with from sklearn.externals, right? Import joblib. You can also use joblib straight away, or you can use from sklearn. That's a basic idea. Perfect. Now we need to load our models. So that is the basic idea. So now let's load our models. Right, so there are several ways. So let's load, first of all, let's load our model here, right? Then later we work on whatever you want to do. So we can load the model before the start. So let's call it as load models. There's going to be our nationality vectorizer. Let's go to our open. We're going to open a particular file. So we're going to go to our models folder. And when we go to our models folder, we have our nationality predictor here, which is this nationality vectorizer rather, right? So let me expand it. So we have our nationality vectorizer, going to be nationality vectorizer, right? Dot pickle. I'm going to open it with a read byte. Perfect. So that is the first stuff. So the next thing that we are going to save it somewhere. So how are we going to save it? So we can just save it as CV nationality or nationality CV. So nationality CV, right? And I'm going to pass in our joblib. So joblib.load our nationality vectorizer. Right, perfect. So that is the basic idea about it. Now we have load our vectorizers. So the purpose of the vectorizer is to convert our text into numbers so that the machine learning algorithm will be able to understand it. Now we have to do for the model. So it's going to be our nationality model, right? So it's going to be NV model. It's going to be our open. We do the same thing that we did. Models slash nationality NV model. That is referring to this particular naive Bayes model. Dot pickle as a write byte format. Then we can save it as nationality CLF, right classifier. So joblib dot open dot load, not dot open. Then our nationality naive Bayes model. Very simple, right? That is the basic idea. So now we have imported our models. Everything is working well. I've imported our models, right? So how do we work with our model? So to work with it, you're just going to come back down here. Just going to create our vectorizer. So vect is equal to our nationality CV, right? Then going to pass in our stuff, our data. Before that, you have to transform it, right? So transform, pass in our data, then we are transforming it, then converting it to an array so that you're able to understand it. Perfect. Now we have vectorized it, so we have to work on it. So with after that has been vectorized, we can now make our prediction. The nationality CLF for our classifier dot predict, then our vect. That is the basic idea about it. So everything is going to be stored inside our vectorizer here, inside our result here. Now we can send this result to our backend. So we can just go with our prediction is equal to result, right? Perfect. So this is what we'll be using for our Ginger. So you come back to our index here, then here there's the original name. So we're going to have our prediction name too. I'm going to put a bracket or horizontal line. Pasting the same thing, and this is not going to be original name, but this is going to be our prediction, right? Predicted nationality or prediction. So here I'll pass in as prediction, which is referring to this prediction here, right? Perfect. So now let's clear, let's go back. Perfect. So let's, so the prediction is coming, so I can just put a name there. So coffee predict African. Perfect. So I can just go back and try another prediction on something different. So let's use something like Mohammed. Let's see whether it's going to predict well. French. I don't know whether Mohammed is French, but I don't know why. So that is how it is, right? So this gave us a French name. I don't know why it's giving us French, but it depends on the amount of data set you use to train our machine learning algorithm, right? So that is why it's giving us this prediction. That is the basic idea about how to build a machine learning app. So we are done with most of them. Now let's see how to do the same thing for our gender and then for our API. So let's see how to work on our gender. So we have created one route for our prediction route. You can also do the same thing for our gender. So I'm just going to copy this here. And then this is going to be our prediction for the gender. So let's call it as predict gender, right? Perfect. And then I'm going to pass in the same method. So it's going to be our method get and then post. Perfect, right? That is the basic idea. Now go to the same thing that we had here, the same format that we did here to do that. So I'll copy this one here because we are receiving almost the same thing, right? And then you have to change some stuff. So first of all, we need to also go to the same approach with the gender vectorizer and naive Bayes format. So it's going to be our gender. I'm going to load our vectorizer. It's going to be our gender vectorizer. Vectorizer is going to be our open our models slash our gender vectorizer. So gender vectorizer dot pickle. Write byte or read byte. Then the next one is going to be our same thing for our classifier, right? It's going to be our not our classifier but store it somewhere. So it's going to be our gender CV. Let's go to our joblib dot load our gender vectorizer. Perfect. So that is for the now we need to also load our model. It's going to be our gender classifier, right? And then I'm going to open it. Then it's going to be like the same thing that we had here, right? Gender classifier, right? But let's call it as gender NV model. Then open it from our models folder backslash our this one we call it as naive Bayes gender model dot pickle. It's a long name anyway, so that it is descriptive, right? You know what it does. And then gender CLF for our classifier, which is going to be our joblib dot load. We are loading in our gender naive Bayes model. Perfect. That is the basic idea about it. So we use the same thing that we had here. So this is not going to be nationality, it's going to be gender. So gender, right, CV, and then gender classifier. Perfect, right? That is the basic idea. So you can just pass in the result. Let's go to that name. It's equal to our name query. Dot, you can make it like dot title. Right, any of them, it's going to work. Then you can just go with our prediction out, right? Perfect. So this is going to give us only 1 or 0 because that's how we train it. Perfect. So we have to write another function to convert it from 1 and 0 to male or female. So that's the basic idea. Now we have done it perfectly. So we have to go to our agenda and then repeat the same thing that we had. So I'll just copy this one because it's almost the same thing. Copy here up to here. The same thing, right? Perfect. Right, so we have something very simple. So this is going to be the same thing, but this prediction is going to be predict gender, which is referring to this particular route, predict gender here, this predict gender route. So that is the basic idea. We're using the same stuff here. And then the original name, we're going to give us the original name. Then we need to work on our other stuff, our prediction. So it's going to be h2, simple. So if you go with this option, you can just go with prediction, right? But if you go with prediction, let's see what it's going to give to us. I'm going to save it. Everything is working as expected. Now let's go back and then let's go from here to predict to gender, right? Perfect. So that now the gender option is coming very well, right? So let's try and see whether I can make a prediction. So we use the same thing. So I can clear it. Perfect. And let's go with predict. Perfect. So that someone gave us as a 1, right? So 1 is a male. So that is the best, that's the result. But the user that cannot understand what 1 is, we have to write a function to convert this 1 into something that the user can be able to understand. So we're just going to go to this place, right? And just going to write a simple if condition, right? So just going to create a simple format. So it's going to be if our prediction is equal to 0, right? Then I want you to see that this is called P is equal to female, right? That's the basic idea. Then go to do another one for the elif prediction is equal to 1, not 1%, but 1. Then do the same thing, P go to male. That is the basic idea. Now we need to end it well. So to end it is going to be like this. It doesn't end if, right? That is the basic idea, to close the end, the if condition. So I'll save it. And now if I come back here, let's go back and let's run it again. Perfect. So we're just going to write the same thing, Kofi, that we had. Let's predict. Take some time to run. So Kofi is a male. Perfect, right? As everybody know. Can also try it on something different, something totally different, like let's say a name like Sarah, right, which is a female name. So let's predict. Perfect. So Sarah is a female name. So that is how to work, right? How it's working. So we know how to work for the gender predictor as well as the nationality predictor. That is the basic idea about it. So the next aspect we have to do is to work on the API stuff. Then later on we add a beautification to it. So let's see how to work on the API. So we have one for our prediction, one for our gender. Now let's work on our API. So the simplest way of working on the API is that we can also use the same thing that we are doing, right? We did here. And then instead of sending the result as JSON, you know, as the normal stuff, you'll be sending it as JSON format, right? So let's see how to do that. So I'll copy this particular stuff we had, right, for the API. It's going to be for our APIs. So the API is going to be simple like this, // the particular stuff you want to predict, so nationality, / and we're going to give it as our string. It's equal to the particular name, right? Perfect. That is the basic idea about working with an API. So let's call it as API nationality. Perfect, right? That is the basic idea about it. And we are not going to return a template, but rather going to return the text that we have been supplied. So this name is going to be passed, this particular name here will be passed into this particular function, and then we are going to return that particular stuff. So I return it straight away. Just go with JSONify, then name, right? Perfect. So if I go straight with this, and let's try it and see. So just go to our option here, then go to API, right, / our nationality, / whatever name that you want to put there. So let's put a name like, let's say David. we say that David has been printed here, right, in a very simple format. I don't know whether you can see it. Printed here in a very simple format. Perfect, right? So now let's see how to make it beautiful. So you can just put inside a dictionary. It's going to be like this. So let's go to our original name, right? And then perfect. So if I run it again, I'm going to see and detect the changes. So it's trying to detect the changes. Perfect. Now, perfect. So the original name has come, right? Original, original name rather, right? Original name. That is the basic idea about it, right? So that is how to work with the API. Very simple format. So now, how do we make it work with the other functionality of the machine learning stuff to it? So we can just do the same thing that we did here. Copy these things that we did, and then do that. So the simplest method is this. So we're predicting the nationality. You can just do the same thing. Copy this stuff here, all up to here. This is the simplest method, right? Copy and paste, right? But instead of using request and post, we will not be using this particular request and post. These things are not needed because we are not using a request method. Right, so what we'll be doing that from here, you'll be taking the name that you are receiving from this place, right? So you can just store it as data, then store that particular stuff as name. That is all, right? Perfect. That is all that we need to do, right? And then we're going to send the result to that particular location. So it's going to be as perfect. That is the basic idea, right? So this is the same thing that we did above, but to make it as an API, I can just do the same thing here. So let's go back to this place, then let's return it back. So we have our agenda, everything is working. Now let's move to our API /nationality / the name that we wanted to predict, so which is, say, David. I don't know whether David will be French too. Type error, right? So it's telling us that there's a type error. So JSON array is not JSON serializable. So the reason is because the result is coming as a list, right? So the only option we can do that from here, right, can just go as this particular option, 0. Right, it's going to bring the first item there to convert it from a list to a string. So let's go back here, open it in order, go back to our API /nationality, can be Marianne, right? Marianne is French. Perfect. So that they're going to predict that Marianne is French. Very simple and very interesting, right? That is a basic idea about building the API option, right? Very simple. You can just do the same thing that we did, but instead of returning it onto a template, you are using JSONify to return it. So this is very nice, right? But there's a better way of doing this, because these things are just repetition. So you can bring all of these things outside and then do the prediction, right? So this is one way of doing it. So you can just put it here. Okay, let's work on for the other one, for the nationality. So it's going to be for our gender rather. Just copy the same thing that we had to save time. So it's going to be for our gender predictor. So it's going to be our API, right? Perfect. Then this API is going to go with /gender / a string is equal to name. Perfect. Just like we had here, right? We have to change this one to API gender, right? Perfect. So that's the basic idea. So this, we don't need this anymore. So But you know, this is repetition of codes, right? So you have to make sure that our code is not dry. So data is equal to our bracket name query. Perfect, right? So that is the basic idea. So we're just going to take off this and then do the same thing that we had here. To this, right? Perfect, right? So here have to be with name, right? So this, you have to pass the name here to allow it to work. So save it and then let's refresh it. Then this one has to be, it's still giving us some errors here because we copied and paste. It's going to be name because we are receiving a name from here. It's going to return it. It's going to detect the changes. So we're starting with starts. Perfect, as I said, so this is going to give us an error, right? So the reason it's giving us an error is that this is coming as numbers, just like the previous one. So we have to find a means of converting it to the proper one. So I'll just come back here. You can just make it like this. So this is going to be our prediction. Let's go as custom prediction, right? And then we're going to use the normal Python stuff. So it's going to be if result, if custom prediction is equal to 0, right? Then return, no, then result. Result is called, result should be female, right? Then the other one is going to be else result is equal to male, right? Any other thing is going to be result is going to male. So we're going to return that result here. That's the basic idea. So this is going to save us from that. Now that's everything is working as expected. So now we're going to change this from nationality to gender. It'll take some time for it to run. Hope everything is working well. There's no errors. I just detecting the changes. Perfect. So it worked perfectly, right? So now Marianne is a female. Perfect. Right, so our app is working as expected. Our API is working as expected. So that is how to build a simple machine learning web application. But the simplest way that sometimes can also put all of these things that we are doing, all this stuff here outside, right? That is going to be another video. Can refactor these things out because these are the same thing we'll be using. So I can just copy these ones out, copy all of these things outside the entire stuff and put them here, right? So that's going to be our gender vectorizer and all of these things. Copy these ones that we have because these are almost the same for everything. That's another way of doing it, right? So let me copy this. Right, outside our app itself because these are constant and global for all of them. And then we will not need this one again. So this one will go off. And then this one to also go off because we don't need it again. It's already defined at the top. Perfect. So we have taken everything outside. This is the simplest format. We have taken everything, the gender vectorizers, the nationality vectorizers outside function as global, so that it becomes very simple and clean. This. Then you have our prediction here, and then the same thing for gender predictor, the same thing for our stuff here. And then this is the refactored code, right? Perfect. So if I stop it, restart it, everything is going to work as expected. So let's go back and try it and see. We have a gender here. So no, let's cancel and go back. Right, with the server, for example, we can just predict. So restarting and detecting the change. We can just go back to the beginning of our app, right? Perfect. And let's paste in the name here, predict. Perfect. Everything is working as expected, right? So that is another way of working it. You can just put all the global stuff that we have, all the global stuff, the ones we'll be doing, so that we avoid repetition and make it cleaner and then simple, right? Everything is going to work as expected. So we have our name. If I go back to our other aspect of gender, everything is working. I can paste in the same thing that we had, coffee, predict, everything is working. Perfect, right? So that is a simple way of working on it. Now let's see how to add beautification to it. But before we add beautification, the basic idea of the app is that, first of all, you can just going to import Flux, then import your machine learning packages. The most important thing is job lib, and these are going to be our machine learning packages, right? Which you have already pickled and you have loaded them. So we can just put them all outside the app or inside. This is globally defined. Then just going to initialize our app, build our route, our individual route to our different HTML front end. Then going to build our ML route for our prediction. So we're going to receive whatever thing that is coming from our form here, right? Whatever thing that is coming from our form here, attached to this name via predict, and then we're going to vectorize it, then predict. Same thing for the gender prediction, and the same thing for the API. Very simple and very clean, right? So you can also do a lot of clean code. Now let's add the applications to the front end and then to the back end. So I'm just going to copy and paste them so that it becomes faster and simple. Paste it here so that it becomes simple. Everything is working as expected. Then for the gender, perfect. So now let's see what we have done so far. Right, so let's refresh, and then now you can just refresh and see. Perfect, right? Everything is working as expected. So this is too big. Right, everything is working as expected previously. So you can just do the same thing. Predict. That's been able to predict very well. The gender is working as expected, and then the API is also working as expected, right? Very, very simple and very easy. So thank you for watching this tutorial. So in case you have any question or contribution, you can just put it at the comment section below, and then in case you have not subscribed, you can also subscribe, then click the notification button so that anytime there's a new video, you can also get an update. Thank you for watching this tutorial, and the code will be below, and check the links below for some interesting book to help you master Python. Thank you and stay blessed.